See, the thing with Aikido, it's the only martial art that is 100% life fulfillment. No other martial art is like that. That we don't do any damage or harm to the other person. Now, how can you do that? It's almost impossible to do that because we live in a world of separation, especially in conflict. That separation becomes incredibly solidified. So I can learn all the techniques of Aikido, and I can learn all the moves of Aikido, and I can learn how to blend skillfully with Aikido. But unless I fundamentally shift my perspective, it won't be Aikido. Aikido, you actually have to shift into perspective where you're actually at one with another person. So how do you do that? Our root chakras are about survival, sexuality, and power. Okay? Now, if you and I, for example, we come into conflict over survival, or we come into conflict over sexuality, there's a woman here, or we come into conflict over power, the strongest person's going to win. Or the smartest person's going to win. Whoever's more clever, more skilled, or just stronger is going to defeat the other one. And it's important for me to defeat you because if I don't defeat you, my survival is at risk. So at a very, very fundamental level, human beings are designed to survive. So if you think back in prehistoric times, you could make two basic mistakes. You could actually think that there's a tiger in the bushes, but there's no tiger there. Okay, that's the first mistake. Second mistake, you think, well, there's no tiger in the bushes, but there is a tiger. Now, evolution rewarded the first mistake because you can make the first mistake hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. You're stressed, you're paranoid as hell, you lose your hair, whatever. Nothing happens.
Now I know.
You keep surviving, yeah, right. Your species continues. You make the second mistake once, then you die. So we have a really strong survival instinct in us, and it's hardwired into the system. It's precognitive. Yeah? So the first thing we learn in Aikido is actually how to give space to that with meditative awareness. You give a certain amount of, you bring your attention to that mechanism, and we start to do practices that are going to confront your boundaries. Right here, your boundaries you feel good. But somehow, if I do something, at some point, you're going to either run away or you're going to come to me. Fight or flight. That's basic. So what we do in Aikido, the first lesson is we actually try to create a capacity where we can see that happening, and we watch the instinct come up, and we let it comes up, it kind of, it matures, and then it disappears. Simply by bringing that meditative awareness of what's happening at a very basic mechanistic level. Boom, it triggers, it comes up, we watch it come up, and we go down. It puts us in the place of choice. Because then if we don't see that, when it comes up, I'm either going to fight you, go towards you, if I think I can beat you, I'm going to run away if I think that you're going to beat me. That's the basic level, yeah? So we actually start with that. We look at that from the very beginning. Next level of development is that somehow we've learned how to, suppress our physical reactions of fighting or running away, but then the emotions are very strong. So same thing, if any time that we're threatened, emotionally I'll either go towards you with anger, or with some type of sarcastic humor, or I'll go away from you in a passive way with playing the victim, oh, don't hurt me type of thing, or indifference, just spacing out. Now, when we start to insert awareness in the middle of this process, it's happening all the time. Then these processes, something happens. First, we start to become aware of them, and we see how deep they are and how often it's happening. And then, just in that awareness, it gives them a chance to kind of transform. They relax a little bit, and it also gives us the space to develop the next levels of awareness. So again, these are the first two lower levels on the hierarchy. One is a fight-flight response. The other is an emotional response. When we bring awareness to it, we start to create a choice that doesn't go down, but it actually starts to lead us up. The next level of development is center awareness response, where I'm actually, my reference point is no longer in my emotions, it's no longer my basic instincts to fight or run away, but my reference point is in my awareness, center of awareness. We do that in the body. It's an embodiment practice. Center of my body has a center here, and center of my awareness. So it's a centered awareness. That becomes a reference. Now, the way we do that is we simply bring our attention inward. This is basic Zen. Any path of practice, the first step on the path of practice is always a step of self-awareness. So we start to kind of create this self-awareness. Self-awareness gives us a container to reprogram that basic survival mechanism. So what we're doing is we're uploading kind of a new software, like an Aikido operating system that gives us choice. And only when we kind of develop the capacity to choose can we start to really do Aikido. Okay, even centered awareness is not yet Aikido, but it gives me that reference point, that base, that capacity to start to do Aikido. Aikido happens in relationship.
It's beautiful. The capacity to choose. Then you start making Aikido actually, and actually the capacity to choose. Then you start living actually.
Right, exactly. And you can live as, let's say, an aware person, but you can also live with. We also think of when we're talking about relationship, there's a self, there's the other, there's the subject, there's the object. I'm subjective, you're objective. That's the thing. In the first step of this awareness training, whatever arises, I take it and I see it as an object. It comes up as a subject, I detach, I observe it as an object. So this is a practice of differentiating from the self. Differentiating from the emotions, differentiating from feelings, differentiating from fear, all my reactions, my triggers. I begin to differentiate and I can see them, and that actually disembeds me from the unconscious mechanisms. If I'm this aware, I can actually connect with you that much. If I'm fully aware, I can connect with you fully. So the more self-aware I become, the more I have the capacity to do the next step, which is the integration of the other. Because remember, Aikido happens in relationship, and the field of practice is conflict. So you and I were sitting here, it's a nice beautiful day in Zurich by the lake, and there's babies running around, and their son passed by. It's all nice and wonderful, but eventually if we sit here long enough, our egos will, our boundaries, whatever, it'll start to rub against each other. Sooner or later we'll have a conflict. That's the nature of reality. That, I have a boundary, at some point it's going to bump up against your boundary, and who knows, we're going to have conflict there. If we don't have self-awareness, we can't approach that conflict. We can't approach it in an aware way, and we're only going to be living in reactions. I'll react to you, you'll say that, I'll say this, it's just constant. Now in Aikido, it's not a verbal practice, it's a physical practice, so we do this in embodiment. And we do that by attacking each. We take turns, one person attacking, one person receives. You receive the attack and we learn skills, you learn certain techniques to work with, but ultimately I'm actually practicing to embody myself, to stay centered, breathe, and actually allow you to attack me. If you think about it, if you're in a fight, a real physical confrontation, somebody's threatening you, you don't want them. My stand is I don't want them to do that, and that keeps separation. So what we have to do in Aikido is actually shift into place where we can accept it. It's well, actually no, I want you to do that. I want you to do that, and I want you to want to do that, and I give you that. I'm here, I'm wide open, and then we have that's the field to play in. But to be able to do that, to really be wide open when somebody's coming at you with whatever, some type of attack. Even though we're friends in the dojo, it's a very good training environment. It's a very safe container to practice this. Even if we're the best of friends, if we go complicated enough or fast enough or hard enough, it's going to put you on that edge. That's the place to learn. And as I create my self-awareness, the next developmental level is not differentiating from myself, but beginning to integrate the other. So I stay centered, I take a deep breath, I feel, I open, and I allow you, and I accept you, and I receive you. Then, if I can, right now, if I'm sitting here with you, if I can actually start to feel you deeply, even though this is a good environment to do it because there's no threat here. If I can start to feel you deeply, then I also create this kind of loop of intuition. It's not a loop of intuition that's coming from my personality or my ego structure. It's actually coming from a place that's quite empty, and then I can connect into you. And that would be the fourth level of development. It's called the intuitive response. Now, when that happens, something really interesting. If I'm an awake and aware individual, then I'm deeply connected to another person who is also awake and aware. Then you and I start to create an awake and aware system. And this is the intersubjective space. And this is the ideal in Aikido when we actually try to practice. When you have an awake and aware system, the system has its own intelligence. And it's not Igal's intelligence, it's not Miles' intelligence, it's not Igal plus Miles, it's something far beyond. There's that whole intersubjective field that Andrew Crowan is practicing, Diane Hamilton is teaching it profoundly, Thomas Hubel does this stuff a lot. And it's really bringing this whole kind of idea of self and other, connecting so deeply, in a transpersonal way, connecting so deeply that you actually open a space that's this intersubjective space that has its own creative intelligence. And then you and I become a creative intelligence. And the creative intelligence of a system, of such a system, is always unpredictable. It's always spontaneous, and you cannot put it in a box. You just do not you do not know what the result is going to be. The previous level,
it never happened before.
Because it never happened before. Exactly. The self has got to be so clean and so. The ego structures have to be so relaxed at that point the shifting the identity from the ego structures into this transcendent space. It's a lot of work, as you know. Performers can do it in a moment of grace. Ordinary people have it, from time to time. It can happen when somebody dies. It can happen in these kind of daily experiences. But as a practice, it's something we're developing again and again and again. And in practice, we actually start to work through little by little. We're working through these ego structures, and that's a lot of work. Now, to get to that stage, there's two things. There's technical development, which takes time, and there's shift of consciousness, which also takes time. You can get people into a state of oneness, with the right conditions. You can settle in. Like if you're ever sitting with a profound spiritual teacher, which you have, just being in their space, suddenly you shift into something that's like beyond you. It's a little bit. What do you say? It's somehow conditioned on the fact that we're in proximity to that teacher.
You're doing the same when you're jamming music with somebody.
Exactly. So Aikido's jazz. When you got two people negotiating their agendas and dealing with it. They deal with it, and and it turns out to be some beautiful piece of art. And again, jazz. You can't predict jazz. You just don't know.
Beautiful.
You don't know.
This is why with Jessica Romish, what she's doing
is when we met,
music,
we spoke for hours about this.
This is a very
we're doing the exact same
parallel.
Totally. Yeah.
Aikido then is a tool for enlightenment.
It's a tool for enlightenment in the body. It's an embodiment tool for enlightenment. It is one of the world's great sacred enlightenment traditions. If I do a lot of my own meditation and learn how to differentiate from my emotions, not to kill them, not to oppress them, not to cut them off, differentiate from my emotions, differentiate from all the thoughts and fears that arise in my mind, differentiate from all the negativity in my mind, and differentiate even from the beautiful stuff that comes up. Just observe it, not suppressing. Everything comes up and goes. The negative reduces, the positive increases, naturally in meditation. If I create a capacity to do that, then I enter into relationship, and the next step is to actually create the capacity to integrate the other. Differentiate from the self, integrate the other. Differentiate from the self, integrate the other. Differentiate, integrate. And then we have this loop there. And then, not only are you in some profound meditation state, but you also enter into a profound relationship, meditative relationship. And whether the other person has developed the capacity to do it or not doesn't really matter. Just by being in that space, it invites them in.
Beautiful, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Totally. This is our responsibility, if I may say it.
Totally.